This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider. London Mayor Sadiq Khan's given an interview to the Evening Standard's Ross Lydell and Susannah Butter, talking about his own life in lockdown and the pressure on London's transport system. He's asked the government to bail out TfL, and they have, but the response he got is not the one he hoped for, and our editorial column says the mayor only has himself to blame.
Fares up, free travel cut back, the congestion charge up to £15, weekends included. The £1.6 billion bailout deal for Transport for London will be felt in the pocket by everyone in the city. In his interview with the Evening Standard, Sadiq Khan says the government is making Londoners pay the cost. Actually, what the government has agreed to do is provide more than £1 billion extra to fund the transport service. In return, it is taking a hard look at the way Mr. Khan has been spending cash. He has, for example, pandered to unions on wage rises, rather than standing up to them, as one day a mayor will have to do. But this immediate crisis is a moment for partnership, not confrontation. Londoners' transport workers have been on the front line, and as the mayor reminds us today, bus drivers have been losing their lives. The bailout has halted what would have been a disastrous shutdown. Now it's time to rebuild.
Susannah Butter's with me now, and it must have been an interesting time to interview Sadiq Khan, because you first start talking to him while he's waiting for the government to respond to his ultimatum about Transport for London. Did he seem under pressure in that moment?
He was at home and he was kind of trying to seem calm, kind of ready with jokes about his lockdown and his lockdown haircut. But you could see he was very aware of how bad it would be if he didn't get his deal. And yeah, he wanted £2 billion, he got 1.1 billion, and he got a lot of conditions from the government. The situation we're in now is a sign of long-term problems dating way back to when a man called Boris Johnson was mayor. I mean, he struggled with funding for TfL and those models. And I think Sadiq's now trying to think about the short-term sticking plaster of this loan. But in the future, I think he's considering a whole remodelling of the way it's all funded.
The other thing is that the congestion charge is going to go up as well. So people who are thinking, oh, maybe I'll take my car in, are going to suddenly find, oh, I can't really afford that either. How are we going to get around in London when this eventually ends?
If it's not managed properly, we risk having quite a divided London, with those who can afford to drive into central London will. Those with bikes who are kind of fit and able to cycle will do that as much as they can, although it's knackering. I mean, I'd have a sort of 24-mile two-way commute if we weren't back. I mean, on the positive side, there's lots of agencies and architects and clean air think tanks trying to capitalise on the change that we've had and use this as an opportunity for wider streets and more cycle paths. And there is a lot of will there, but whether there's the money, especially at a time when TfL has been really hard hit, not just financially, but in terms of staff they've lost, which is another tragic side of what's happened. I think, yeah, Sadiq's under a lot of pressure. I don't envy him.
And London might have beaten coronavirus, at least for now. The R rate is down to 0.4, so for every 10 people who are infected, they're likely to pass it on to 4 people, which is a really low R rate. So we could all start to come back out of our houses. But Susie, is our London ever going to be the same again?
I hope so. I think it'll take a long time. I don't want to use the phrase the new normal, because that's been quite overused. I think in terms of everything that makes London, the restaurants, the culture, the people, the ability to get around, we do have one of the best transport systems in the world for all its failings. I think all of that taken a severe hit. I think people are scared. I think there's huge financial constraints, things like museums that rely on money from visitors from abroad, that's all gone. So there's been a lot of innovation. There's been museums doing incredible new things online. There's been live streamed plays. Laura Marling is playing live at the Union Chapel. But I think we've been severely battered, and tragically some businesses won't survive this.
The innovation has really kind of got to me in some ways, just seeing how hard people are working to try and keep things going. Like we had at the Wigmore Hall the other day, live concerts are back. There's no audience, and the crew there are so few of them. They've all got individual toilets apparently, as was written about in the Evening Standard, which I thought was a lovely detail. But it's so great to see how when something like coronavirus hits a city like London, London does its best to just drive on through, doesn't it?
I think all of that's really important, because we need that, and that sense of collective experience really helps in a time when everyone's completely bewildered.
Are you gonna just run straight out of the house when lockdown is lifted? Are you gonna feel safe when you come out?
Am I going to get out of my leggings that I've been living in and go on a lap on them? I mean, you get it even walking down the road and people crossing out of the way, some people wearing face masks, other people not. Lots of people aren't quite sure about that either. I think there's a lot of fear, and I think speaking to doctors and nurses who say that coming home from their shifts on the tube, they're noticing people sitting next to them now, and they're quite scared of that. So while the news about the R rate is encouraging, I think there's a lot of caution there as well. And we don't want to speak.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.